Welcome to From the BLN, the Burnley podcast. We're just under 24 hours after Burnley 0, Crystal Palace 1. It's fair to say today social media has been alive and kicking with various comments and observations and suggestions, shall we say, from everybody from Scott Parker to Alan Pace to Uncle Tom Cobley. With me to discuss all that for our Thursday podcast, Paul Woodhouse, over in the United States of America, and then former editor of When the Ball Moves fanzine over the other side of the Big Hill in the Pennines, Martin Barnes. Evening, chaps. Thanks for joining us. Let's get last night's result and performance out the way. Woody, I know you're one of these people with your big jumbotrons. I'm sure you've been marching around, pausing and pressing play and things like that. But does it get any better 24 hours after the event?
No. I mean, to be fair, but then again, to be fair, you can argue that last night wasn't arguably the worst performance of this season by any stretch. You know, we made a good fist of it, especially in the second half, and some of the capitulations we've seen over the past few weeks. So you can argue that there's a lot of good things to be said from the performance perspective, but from a result perspective, and losing 5 on the bounce, that's obviously shocking, you know.
Yeah, and Martin, 5 on the bounce, as Woody said. In and amongst that were results against teams which we were perhaps looking at going, this is a bit of an easier run of games, Chelsea aside. You know, we went to West Ham, went to Brentford. You know, Brentford have been doing great, albeit Chelsea at home. Last night, Palace, they were kind of ones we were hoping to get something out of, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was on, I said what would be interested to see was how we did from this next block of 8 games, and I'm not particularly enjoying this block of 8 games.
Of the first 5, haven't we?
Badly,
it's a little bit worrying, isn't it? It's because winning and losing both become habits, don't they? And they just look short of confidence. Nobody, Edwards apart last night when he came on for a bit, nobody seemed to want to. And actually, all the subs, I thought Hannibal had a decent pop, having been poor at Brentford. But yeah, we can't live on these half-an-hour slots of playing good football, taking it to them, and actually already being a goal down. So maybe Palace just took 5% off, 10% off, just sat with happy with what they got, and they could have scored a second early on, couldn't they? So yes, it is what it is.
Yeah, and obviously, Woody, with 5 defeats on the bounce comes the inevitable questions over Scott Parker and his future. I mean, he's come out today in his press conference and said he's got no worries over his future. He has an honest relationship with Alan Pace, and they've been chatting today, mainly about family stuff and things like that is what he said. I'm pretty certain last night's result came into it as well. But there is this kind of feeling among some Burnley fans that this is as good as it's going to get under Scott Parker. And I know we've kind of teased and talked about, you know, who else would we get in, and is Scott Parker the right man for the job? But that outside noise, which is the phrase managers like to use, can't be helpful for Parker or the players, can it, going into another big game on Saturday at Newcastle?
No, it's like Martin said. You can see the confidence has drained out of a big chunk of that side. You can see the confidence is drained, arguably, out of Scott Parker as well. And like we were saying last night, that, you know, he's feeling it. We know that he's, you know, somebody who wears his heart on his sleeve as a manager, which is kind of rare, isn't it? Yeah. You very rarely see this kind of a reaction from a manager. And I personally feel quite bad for him. And like I was saying in his group chat, I rarely feel bad for managers, but I always get slightly excited about new manager speculation. But it's one of those things. It's like we've seen it before and we know what kind of happens in this division. It's not an easy one to kind of turn things around. We've only ever really seen it once when Dwight McNeil and Joe Hart got dropped, you know, in that particular season. And since then, it's just been a hiding to nothing. And you can just see things getting, you know, increasingly worse from here on in.
Yeah. There does feel, Martin, to be an inevitability about, the way this season is going to go. Do you think there's inevitability that Scott Parker won't see the season out with Burnley? I mean, ALK perhaps criticised last time for not potting Vincent Kompany after a run of games, you know, where we ended up, 10, 11 points in December. Do you think it's kind of, you know, they'll learn from that and perhaps be a little bit trigger happy with Parker, or do you think Parker will see out the season? I'm asking you to get your crystal ball out a little bit there.
Well, I think they'd be a bit daft to get rid of him now, because we didn't get rid of Company, and that was a complete mess of a season. And all right, we had a couple of results where you thought, oh, maybe, just maybe, with your claret and blue tinted spectacles on, we might do it. Encouraging performances at Chelsea despite having players sent off, you know. So I don't really see the point. I know you've said this before. I don't see the point of getting rid of him now. Who are we going to get in? Who's going to want a relegation on the CV? Nobody. I think we should stick with him for the rest of the season, see what happens, but make an early decision in the summer and make it really public as to what's going on. Right, we're either backing him or, you know, it's a mutual consent job, because you really need a good summer window, don't you, where you're going to look at the players, get who you want, and ship out those that you don't. I don't think January is the time to do it. We know the prices are inflated. It's panic buying at best. Yeah, no, whilst it's hard to watch at times, we knew what the season was going to be about. We've been here often enough before. I think we've just got to suck it up a little bit. I think performances are better than 2 years ago. Stick with him for me, because I can't see who would want to come here that's going to do any better.
Yeah. Do you think, Woody, I mean, I agree with Martin. I've been kind of quite clear about, you know, I would stick with Parker, because I think there is an element of, I think he's been dealt a poorish hand with the recruitment, and we'll perhaps come on to that, and we have touched on that. But I've been saying to a few people today, I genuinely think, looking at his demeanour over the last couple of games, that if we get beat at Newcastle on Saturday, he might just decide enough's enough. Do you get that impression from watching his body language? I mean, we've talked about him wearing his heart on his sleeve. He's an emotional guy. I mean, there is that famous kind of post-playoff video where they've set his post-match interview to the streets, dry your eyes, man. He does feel a little bit like that, in that kind of melancholic way. But is there a chance that come Saturday evening, if we don't get a result at Newcastle, suddenly the yellow tickers on Sky Sports News that he's handed in his notice?
No, I think there's a little bit of a narrative being created around some of the quotes. Like we've said, that quote that's been like cut up, you know, and the point is the people who want him out never wanted him in, and they're being quite vocal about it. And it seems to be every single poor decision, etc., they jump on his back. So it's simply an excuse to keep pushing this narrative. And so when you start seeing these things that are clipped up, that only adds to that particular narrative. And I mean, I really don't genuinely see. I saw the latest documentary on X, and I didn't necessarily see him, you know, skulking and wandering around and you know, looking like he was going to dive into a canal or something. I didn't see anything on that with regards to that. And so it seems to be a little bit naughty, and some people seem to be playing it to their advantage, and I don't like that.
Yeah, diving into a canal rather than jumping over it like Brian Laws did on that famous video,
Exactly.
of course. But yeah, I mean, Martin, the quote that Woody's on about, Sky Sports put a clip out of his press conference yesterday, which basically ended with him saying, "I've got a group here that'll fight. That might not be enough. That might not be enough." And then it's kind of a hard cut. Now, Simon, being the diligent journalist that Simon has always been across several countries, covering several football teams, dug out the full quote. And the full quote is, you know, he does say this is part of the journey and part of what you need to be. Like I said, I've got a group here that will fight. That may not be enough. That may not be enough. Hard cut. But my God, when the curtain comes down at the end of the season, we'll all be judged. Between now and then, we'll fight, do everything in our power to try and be successful. And like I said, I thought the team represented that tonight. It's a little bit naughty, and you know, it's an industry that I've spent the last 25 years in. You know, it's either the work experience kid or it's somebody with a bit of an agenda, perhaps a Rovers fan down at Sky Sports HQ, that's clipped that in a way that Burnley fans have jumped all over. You know, Burnley fans have done that clip and gone, he's given up. What's the point? If he's given up, how motivating must it be? This is part of the problem, is it not, Martin, with modern football, that we live in this kind of 30-second, 60-second TikTok, social media, get a soundbite environment, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be the first person to have a fight-inspired speech clip, would he? maybe our $1 billion budget might come in about 3 years' time. I don't know. Yeah, no, it does feel a little bit naughty, doesn't it? It does feel a bit disingenuous that they're sort of trying to stitch him up a little bit. But I suppose they're scrabbling around, aren't they, at the moment? There's no big stories coming out of the big clubs. Nobody's kind of in a... Even Slot doesn't appear to be under that much pressure, from within the supporters yet. So maybe they are just scrabbling around for that kind of latest, this manager's about to go, isn't he? Is he about to get potted? I think it doesn't feel like it's the sort of thing that Sky Sports should be doing. You can see if the Lancashire Evening Telegraph were to do it, maybe that'd be one thing. But yeah, an international broadcaster should be doing a little bit better than that by him. Maybe there's the agenda on, and they know that he's had 2 cracks at it already, and they're trying to weaken him that way. Yeah, it's distinctly possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a way to boost a little bit of money to Sky Bet, though, isn't it?
Well,
it is. I mean,
well.
Yeah, I mean, the markets are open for the next Burnley manager. I think Gary O'Neill is kind of leading that. Michael Carrick's in there. Sean Dyche, weirdly, I think he's 20-1, which just shows you how small the market is, really. I mean, you were to stick 20 quid on Dyche, he'd suddenly become joint favourite. But, I mean, Woody, Parker, we've praised, goodness knows how many times over the last 18 months that he's been with us, just shy of 18 months perhaps, for him wearing his heart on his sleeve and for the kind of character he is. And it's clear from watching the Keeping the Faith videos and the various, stuff that comes out from the club, how much I think he cares for the players, but the players seem to have a genuine love and care for him as well, don't they? And there's got to be something in that, would you think, that, this band of brothers that he talks about, this group of men he always likes to talk about, you kind of think that gives you a glimmer of hope, no matter how bad things are looking now, that actually this group, as he said in that extended quote, will fight to the death and, will only admit defeat when it's impossible to admit otherwise.
Well, proof was in the pudding second half last night, wasn't it? You know what I mean? That was them putting as much effort as is humanly possible as they could in that particular situation. The fact that it didn't necessarily come off, they didn't deserve necessarily to get beat, they didn't deserve to win it, but I think a draw would have been a fair result. So they didn't look like a completely beaten side. They look like a side of low on confidence, like we said, but that's a different thing to a side that's lost all confidence in its manager and vice versa. And obviously he also mentioned how he hasn't lost, the love of Little Al. But Little Al tends to love everybody, doesn't he? Apart from us on this pod. Yeah.
Yeah. But we know he listens, of course, so we know somebody at the club listens, of course. And they'll be listening to this, so if you are listening, whoever the mole is, don't sack Scott. Keep him on. Live with the Christmas spirit. But Martin, just turning his attention to last night and the second half of last night, I just wonder whether, at Brentford he dropped, or rested, I think we have to say, rested Jadon Anthony, brought in Hannibal essentially in that role, I guess, and didn't quite work out. I thought Hannibal had a lot of energy, but last night Anthony came back into the side, didn't really pull up any trees again. Chauner's becoming increasingly kind of erratic and isolated. But what we did see is we saw Marcus Edwards, a little ring rusty, but at least want the ball and try and be creative. And we saw Jakob Brun-Larsen on his favoured left-hand side as well, didn't we? Do you think there's a kind of, there's almost a path now to Newcastle that says that's essentially the 2 wingers that we have to start with? Because it does give you that mix of creativity, a bit of drive, Brun-Larsen's work rate. Is that what you'd be looking at if you were travelling to the northeast?
Yeah, completely. I said that to my lads when I was watching it. I was really pleasantly surprised with Brun-Larsen. People have talked about how much he tends to slow our play down. He did not do that at all on the left-hand side, did he? He looked to get in, he looked to overlap, he looked to bring in Hartman on the overlap, he looked to drive into the box. Yeah, he looked really sort of decisive. And Edwards did what Edwards does. He had the ball at his feet. Like you say, he looked a little bit ring rusty, he trod on the ball at one point. But the interesting thing on that was the Palace defenders, they looked a little bit scared of him, didn't they? He didn't quite know what to do. So we need that element where people are going to just stand off you a little bit and maybe give you that little bit of space and maybe that half chance or that little deflected shot, a bit like the chance that nearly came off Breuer's back. If he's a metre or 2 close to the goal, that goes in. and that doesn't count any less than a 30-yard worldie, does it? So, yeah, no, I really hope that he goes with those two. I mean, it'd be our luck. They'll have stinkers. Both wingers will go back to having an absolute nightmare.
that shadow of a doubt.
But I think it's worth that. I think it's worth a go. Personally, I'd look at swapping the front two around as well, because he seemed to be playing, Fleming up the top with Foster dropping deep again,
Foster
didn't he? Whereas I just think, just swap that around. That would be the thing I would look at, and Foster will run at him a little bit as well, because I think we're going to be under the cosh, and we need to get the ball kind of into the space for them to run onto, and not look to play to feet all the time, which I felt a bit sorry for Anthony. I don't know if it's his confidence or the players, but there's all this old school playing it in front of the winger for him to run onto. It's just, we'll give it to your feet, and then you have to go past him from a standing start, which I don't really get. I don't really understand that. Surely it's better to go on the run. But yeah, the long answer to a short question, I thought the two wingers came on, and they should start for me, definitely.
Yeah, and Woody, I mean, that chance for Breuer kind of hooked off the line. It was, I was saying to my mate who I'm on with every game, we just need a scruffy goal. You need it to go off someone's backside.
Yeah.
The kind of Henderson getting a touch on Brun Larsen. I mean, that's, if he don't get a touch, it's nestling in the top of the net, innit? And that's the goal you want, and that probably kick-starts, a bit of a flurry in that last 5-10 minutes where you kind of think, you know what, we could turn this around. It did feel second half like you get one goal and that could not open the floodgates as such, but that all of a sudden you naturally see all the players' shoulders start to go up, and that energy. At the minute, we're just not getting that cut of the green, are we? That little stroke of luck we need for a deflection to bobble past a goalkeeper, are we?
Yeah, no, it's things like Thunder Bastards from Josh Cullen, just like whacking Foster in his nads, and that's it. That was his best touch all night. And it's, you're exactly right. Just anything, but it just smattered slightly of desperation, especially the way that we started off. And it seemed like when we got into those positions, and we know under Parker, chances are at a premium. Yeah. They really are, aren't they? And the way that we took them at the beginning of the season, and now we couldn't hit a back of a barn door with a banjo, could we? And it's it's probably going to turn around at some point, but we've got to do something in order to facilitate that. And I think the thing that impressed me a little bit last night was when both Edwards and Brun Larsen came on, how we managed to push them back, how there was more intensity in the play. And if we can do that at Newcastle or against any side, arguably, then, we're in with a little bit more of a chance, aren't we? And Edwards, for me, is like a very different, he's a little bit more old school, even though he's not that old and it's only a few years ago, but he's not a modern winger, is he? He's not like kind of tucking in or whatever. He wants to take people on. He wants to be a tricky little bugger. And that's quite, it's quite rare in the Premier League, isn't it? And like Martin, you were saying, it's like, that kind of scares defenders. And so let's scare some of those big numbuggers up in Newcastle.
Yeah. And Martin, I mean, looking at kind of, touching on what Woody said there, we know chances of a premium. I think I saw something about Burnley's expected goals over the first 14 games is like 10 or something across all of the games. I hate expected goals as a metric because I don't understand it. But you've got a couple of scenarios yesterday where players are picking the ball up, and rather than driving down the middle towards goal, they seem to be driving towards the corner flag. Like it's, I don't know if it's a dereliction of duty or thinking, well, if I'm out here, I'm not going to get the blame if I don't miss. And then second half, Foster chooses to try and put a ball across the box rather than lashing it towards goal at the near post to try and beat Henderson. There's clearly a confidence issue once we get into that final third, isn't there? Because, you can get wingers to the byline, but a couple of times they're looking up and there's nobody gambling. How do you switch a mentality within a squad that appears to not want to get anywhere near the 6-yard box unless they're in there for a corner?
I don't know. I'm glad you've given me a question that I probably need a UEFA B licence for. Maybe, I don't know. The old school managers like your Warnocks and people would probably have fined strikers for dropping deeper than 30 yards from their goal. It might be just something we've just got to change the mentality and say, look, I don't want to see you behind that point. But he isn't going to do that, is he? So within his systems, which are seemingly he's fairly fixed with it. I really don't know. We're going to have to give somebody the job of getting into the penalty area.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to Josh Brownhill because we're all a little bit upset he didn't stay, but he would be the sort of person to do that, wouldn't he? Just be arriving a little bit late. So I don't know whether we'll see some mixing around of the midfield as well, because it doesn't feel like enough of those bodies are getting up to support.
Yeah.
And clearly we can't just throw everybody up there because we'll get tonked about 6 or 7. But we've got, like you said, we've got to get a body in the box that's more than just one striker to aim for, because if it doesn't go to him, he's just dropping into space and they're just breaking away. And like Palace did a couple of times, just finding a nice easy 1-2 and then a ball down our channel where their wing back just runs onto it. And Newcastle are better than Palace, aren't they? So we just need to be mindful. I'm glad it's not my problem to solve.
Yeah, definitely. One problem that was kind of solved, Woody, for Scott Parker was Tuanzebe's injury, which allowed Ekdal to come back in. What did you make of the return of Ekdal? For me, it probably Esteve probably had one of his better games with Ekdal alongside him, and I was quite impressed with the Swede coming back in.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't really have a lot to do. They're probably going to have a far sterner test on Saturday. But I've always liked Ekdal. Granted, yes, he's not the quickest, is he? But I think his touch is there. I think he can read the game relatively well. He can bring the game out a little bit. And I think one thing we've missed especially with Tuanzebe a little bit, is kind of that diagonal ping. That release from that centre half that we've utilised from Darragh O'Shea onwards. We seem to have lost that a little bit, and at least Ekdal, I think his range of passing is a little bit better. But yeah, I thought he was fine without having a lot to do, really.
Yeah, again, big test at Newcastle, Martin, isn't it? With the big man up front, Voldemort or whatever he's called, the big German up front. That is going to prove a bit of a test for Ekdal and Esteve, isn't it? It's not, I don't want to liken him to Haaland, but he's got that physical attributes of a Haaland, hasn't he? He's a big player. He likes to get physical, and they'll put them two centre halves under pressure, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just thinking about centre-half pairings of far better stature than ours, Man United, Vidic and Ferdinand, one of them blessed with pace, one of them not so much blessed with pace. So it can work. It can complement one another. They're both pretty decent in the air, aren't they? So, yeah, they're going to have the physicality, but you don't get to be a centre-half and play international football at any level without having
exactly
a little bit about you physically. You're not like 3 stone, are you? So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge, absolutely. How he goes about it, does he go man for man? Does he have one of them as a spare? Who knows? That'll be the challenge. But yeah, they're going to be, like Woody says, they're going to be under a lot more pressure, and there's going to be more chances with 60,000 Geordies roaring them on, isn't there? And they do like to get the ball in the box. So yeah, I don't think they'll have a quiet one on Saturday. Unfortunately, they'll earn the corn, that's for certain.
Yeah, definitely. And because we've got you on, Martin, we know you're a referee and you're running the line on Saturday. Just wanted to touch on the refereeing performance last night of Premier League debutant Tom Kirk. One of those rare referees that you get when they have that first game, don't feel kind of, to me anyway, overawed by the occasion. Probably not the hardest game to referee in essence, but it's. We seem to have kind of got bogged down, I should say, with the standard of refereeing in the Premier League. Did you spot anything in his performance last night which you kind of think, there's a bit of a breath of fresh air seeing somebody come from the Championship and the Football League and not be kind of, perhaps laden with the baggage of being a Premier League referee for years that some of them appear to be?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. He certainly seemed to let a little bit more of the physicality go, which clearly would be more usual in the Championship and League One and League Two, which will have come through. He definitely had the benefit of, it was what we referees would probably call an easy game. There wasn't anything, nobody did anything daft for a start off. There weren't any KMIs, where he's having to go, is that a penalty, is that not a penalty? There was nothing like that at all. There weren't really any contentious issues. VAR, did VAR get involved at all, other than obviously checking the goal like they have to? I don't think there was, but no, he certainly was. I think the last two referees, I know we got a penalty given against us, which in real time at Brentford looked harsh, but on the replay, the referee had done brilliantly well. So yeah, the last two, Kirk and Barrett, for me, both young referees, could be around at that level for a good amount of time, and they have to work blooming hard to get to this level. I'm so far down the pyramid compared to them, and you go through fitness tests, you have to do monthly laws of the game assessments and all this sort of stuff. It's not just turn up and get your money. Well, obviously it is their job, and they've done a damn good job of getting there. But absolutely, I was impressed by the fact he just let a few things sort of go, if you will. My only concern is, after an amount of time in the Premier League, they're very clearly told what their expectations are. The Premier League is a product at the end of the day, and they'll probably.
This season, Arsenal have to win, don't they? I think that's the.
Yeah.
I won't put you on the spot. I won't put you on the spot with that, Martin. I don't want you losing your whistle. I guess you'd have it ceremoniously taken off you, but. Just in terms of your refereeing journey, I mean, I'm always quite interested. When did you start out as a referee, and what's the motivation for getting involved within the laws of the game as opposed to playing the game?
I mean, I think it depends on person to person. So my lad, who's now 19 and sort of fallen off the end of the junior football conveyor belt, his team were, I don't know, under 11s or something, and struggling to get a ref sometimes. So I stepped in. And it wasn't a complete disaster on the times that I did it. So the club just paid for me to go and do my thing, and as long as I refereed them. So I refereed his team. And then you just sort of branch out a little bit, start doing a bit of the girls' football on the Saturdays. Thought, I'm quite enjoying this as well. Got some reasonable feedback, a couple of little finals here and there. And then you just start looking at the promotions and you think, well, do I want to try and push myself? And it just depends on the person, doesn't it? Some people are completely happy bobbling along, refereeing pub football on Sundays, which isn't for me, partly because I broke my leg playing that sort of football. But I just thought, I'm going to challenge myself, and I went on refereeing local county senior football, and just went through 2 on the men's game, and also 1 on the women's pathway, because I thought I could get a promotion there without a fitness test, and then halfway through the season they brought one in. So I think some people just start off with a bit of pocket money, just to earn a bit of pocket money, and then find out, like anything in life, if you're quite good at it, you enjoy it more, and you think, well, I'm gonna see what I can do. And I imagine that's what is the case for most of the elite ones. That's how they will have started out. They just had a 20 or a 25-year head start on me. I mean, I only started when I was in my 40s, so I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't do it in my 20s, to be honest, but there you go.
Yeah, definitely. And Woody, I mean, have you ever fancied? I mean, it's a national pastime, isn't it? Bollocking and slagging off referees. But have you ever fancied kind of, running the line, trying to get a call right, or kind of just basically having 22 burly blokes shouting at you? I know that's the kind of thing you're usually into. Really,
that's a different thing altogether. Yeah. No, other than like other teams I played with, and one that I feel sorry for the bastards, but I manage and having to run the line there and getting shouted at, regularly. So I wouldn't do it for love nor money, So no, and especially not now. I'd be out of puff just putting my flag up, let alone like trying to run the damn line, So no, leave it to the like professionals, semi-professionals, and Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if either of you saw the clip doing the rounds with the guy with a Sainsbury's carrier bag, I think it was, rather than a flag. It must have been Sunday League football, and it was just the guy running the line. He had an orange Sainsbury's carrier bag rather than a flag. But I'm sure you've got your own flags, Martin. But it's a weird kind of. At that level, I mean, the kind of a level below which you do, the kind of pub football. I mean, I remember kind of when I managed Burnley's fans team, having to kind of run the line, and the referee would be like, "It's just ins and outs. You're not there to call offside." It's a weird kind of, I don't know, environment, isn't it? Refereeing at that level, I guess, compared to where you are doing county stuff, doing reserve team games for clubs and what have you. Is it easy to kind of lose the drive to want to keep pushing yourself when you do just have 22 pissed up blokes from the night before shouting at you?
I mean, as I say, I've only ever I did one county cup game from a league like that, and it was nearly a mass brawl in the first 2 minutes. There was a foul, somebody reacted, and then all the benches from both teams came on in the first 5 minutes, and this was on like a mud bath of a pitch in the middle of Sheffield, and I just thought, this is exactly why I don't do it. But to be fair, I just kind of give him a bit of a bollock in him, right? Well, if you guys all come on the pitch again, this game's done. And I gave out a yellow card each, and I think I had one more yellow all game. So it... there's not many people who will just do that. Some people will do that in the middle, and then they'll do games on a Saturday morning, which again, girls' league, or they might do some lives. But yeah, those sorts of games, it wouldn't excite me, because you want to see good football, and that's the thing. When you're an official at that level, sometimes you're right next to somebody as they kind of thunder bastard one into the top corner. You've got the best view of that shot going in. You know what I mean? And you have an impact on the game. You're there to protect the players. You're there to stop people doing anything daft, and you're there to sort of make sure the game flows as expected where you possibly can. So it is enjoyable. I understand completely where Woody's coming from, because there's times in certain games where I just think, what am I doing this for? I've been called some things from behind me in places near Doncaster where you think, I've never heard those words used in combination before. And like, I'm not sure I can put my flag there, to be honest. But you just sort of, what it's like, 'cause you've been on that side where people just, it's just a vent, isn't it? They're just getting rid of all the stuff from the week. But no, you've got to enjoy it. It's like anything, you've got to enjoy it to do it. If you don't, people give it in, and that is one of the things that's been happening. They're trying to work hard on keeping referees kind of in the game, because otherwise we're a bit knackered, aren't we? And we do have to have coaches running and doing it, and that is when you get real problems in sort of in junior football as well as adults.
Yeah, definitely. I think the moral of the tale there, Woody, is not don't take up refereeing, it's don't go to Doncaster. Which I think this podcast heartily endorses that message from Martin Barnes. Don't be a referee in Doncaster. Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Well, that's a brilliant insight. Like I said, I'm always fascinated talking and listening to referees because of their experiences. And, it is a tough job. But like I say, I was very, very pleased when I came off the turf. We were saying what a good game, in a very easy game the referee had, with it being his first game, and you kind of pleased that passed off as it did. But yeah, let's hope we have. I don't know who we've got on Saturday. It'd be somebody to ruin the weekend. I'm sure it is. It'll be one of those that we don't like. There's plenty of them. Let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Martin, for joining us. Always good to have you on. Cheers, Woody. We'll be back with a rapid reaction after Saturday's game. We'll also be back with the debrief, the kind of deeper dive, a little bit later in the weekend, Monday morning perhaps as well. But until then, enjoy what is rest of this week. Try not to let the results of the other night kind of ruin it too much. And wherever you're watching the game on Saturday, up the Clarets.